suppose you see so much of, examples of those who lived a spiritual life, and some of it might be just gossip, but you hear of somebody who had a status of a saint, and then they ended up abusing children, something horrifically dark. You hear of things like that, or I remember being in Thailand for a while, just hanging out with a friend a few years ago, and the monks coming down, it's just and they're walking, begging for alms, coming down from the mountain monks, is it? I can't remember the correct name, but you would see them looking at the bikinis, like this, and it's like, oh please, go into the world and do it, demystify, get rid of it, so that I can take or leave that. That's actually about nothing. That's just more of the same. But what I've chosen is to go within. And so when you've gone in enough, it's like, that's just flesh with a piece of fabric on it. So what? And it doesn't pull. You see? And that's great freedom, to be able to participate in the world in a total clean and free way. Again, we're on about that phenomenal freedom of allowing the body, preparing the body and the mind to engage in the world, but in no way to get caught up and imagine that it's you, that it can give you something, that it can in any way completely satisfy. It can't. It's like you have to reorganize your position in the world to see that this is as good as it gets. This is as good as it gets. Life isn't going to get any better. You can introduce more phenomenal freedom and not be obeying the rules in your head. You can do that much. So that, there's an unlimited flow with whatever feels the purest thing for you to do at any moment. But it's not from your ideas of how you think the world should be. That's as good as it gets, that phenomenal freedom. So once that's organized, it's a really good preparatory system for going outside of all of it. And if you don't have that organized, something's going to get a bit twisted. Because once you see the truth, the view of the world and how it works can be distorted if you haven't completely matured in the world first. And it will pull you back in, and something will be unhealthy in your position in the world. Something will be dysfunctional. So that spiritual maturation is hugely important. So while you're waiting for grace to call you home, work on phenomenal freedom, where the limitations of mind are not in charge. Drop doubts, drop conditioning, drop the controller. Let there be a free flow, not to be a doormat and to be serving everything who that wants anything, but to come from that centered, still place and responding to what that inner movement is inside. That's very freeing. You've no investment then in what you do. You see? And it organizes your whole system to actually the world is fine now. Managing in the world is fine. Now, what's beyond all of it? Who am I really? You see? So it's worth getting the sequence right. For the sake of all of humanity, it's worth maturing in the world first. And there are lots of spiritual traditions that don't allow for spiritual evolution until that maturation has happened. There are systems that say before a certain age you can't do it, or only after 12 years of living with a guru can you receive any spiritual knowledge about who you are. There's all kinds of ways, like in the traditional Indian culture that I came across, so mostly, I suppose Hindu culture, that tradition of you do your schooling, you have your profession, you move from there into rearing a family. Now you start your real spiritual inquiry once you're a retired parent. It doesn't allow for much freedom, but that's from our perspective because we can do what we want pretty much, But what's the maturity or the wisdom that's built into it is that a life has been lived, and the wisdom of living a life is already established by the time the door opens to seeing what's prior to all of it. And it makes a lot of sense. You know? It makes a lot of sense.